Hey everybody, welcome once again to The Non-Prophets. This show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Jeff D. My guest today is Vic Farrow.
And?
That's not him crying in the background.
No.
Vic is a big boy now. And our producer remains, as usual, Russell Glasser.
Hello. That was me, actually.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Russell. What's bothering you, man? You're weeping like a baby. Everything okay?
Yeah, so I feel better now.
Today, it's Cardinal Law, wasn't it? That's so sad. So sad, that poor man.
I'm gonna miss that guy.
Today's opening music was The Angel Wars by
like
Gary
Newman.
Newman. The what?
Kind of like missing the mumps.
That's right. Once they're gone, it's something seems missing. Where was I? Today's opening music was The Angel Wars by Gary Newman. He sings, I don't need faith, forgiveness of sin, I don't need saving, I don't need lies. This song is from his 1998 album Exile, which is quite a wonderful atheist manifesto for those of you out there who might want to go track that down. We are live December 14, 2002. The Atheist Community of Austin is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism, the separation of church and state, and removing crying babies from the studio.
Oh, come on now. We don't want to get a perception.
We're in favor of that.
We don't want to get a perception that
what?
We don't want to lose favor with the public.
Separation of babies and audio programs. This seems to make sense. We have weekly meetings Sunday mornings at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 307 West 5th Street at 10:30 a.m.
Oh,
where babies are welcome.
Fans.
I do? What? Oh.
Vic's fans are...
Yay! Hey! Hi, how you doing? Get back to the news.
All right. Vic is now staring slack-jawed at the chat room screen where he sees that there's people that actually are happy to see him back.
They do love me. They really do love me. Yes.
I'm very saddened when you left the show.
I'm going to try to make more regular appearances.
All right.
Work sucks. But,
I called Mary this morning, too, but she was one of the many people that didn't return my calls.
Oh.
What's up with that?
She's too good for you now.
People don't like that.
She's too good for all of us.
Weekly meetings, ACA, Sunday mornings, Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop.
Don't forget where you're at.
Street, 10:30 a.m., except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of Fur's Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. The next lecture will be on January 5. Anybody know what the lecturer is going to be?
I heard a rumor that I can't remember now.
Oh, good. Good for you.
We only heard it once, huh?
ACA board meetings take place at 10 a.m. right before the regular meeting on the second Sunday of every month, which this is, or tomorrow is, right?
Tomorrow is.
Tomorrow? Wait a minute. Or is that the third? No, that's the third.
Board meeting last week.
Okay. Never mind.
I don't want to do two board meetings in 1 month.
The board meetings are open to all ACA members, but you can only vote there if you're on the board of directors. If you shop at the Randall's Food Store chain, you can give them our nonprofit organization number 5158, and 1% of your purchase will automatically be donated to the Atheist Community of Austin. The Godless Gamers meet Monday nights at 7 p.m. here at Glasser Studios. How was Gamers last week, which I missed?
Empty.
Empty?
Yes, one person showed up and he left early because no one else was there.
Oh, gosh. Well, then I saw the email from Jeff Jones, who was supposed to run his RPG in my absence.
Ah, well, he must have taken everyone else with him.
Well, I'm running my campaign tomorrow for those people in the Godless Gamers group that listen to the show. I'm sorry, Monday. I keep confusing today with Sunday, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
Monday night, Godless Gamers here at Glasser Studios. I'll be running for those of you who play in my game.
I couldn't be there because
kind of a nice break for a change, actually, but we do like having people over.
Yeah, I couldn't be there because I was busily watching that sci-fi series Taken.
Oh. Or Taken In.
Well, it wasn't
or Taken Out and Shot.
It wasn't entirely a bad show. It had some interesting twists on the UFO mythology, which I thought were funny.
Everybody in the freaking universe can shape change except us, apparently.
No, there was no shape changing. They were just mind screwing us.
No, all right. Well, whatever it is,
I like that part.
Do it.
I like that part where the aliens came back and took their ship back. That was funny.
My favorite aliens were the ones from one of the Simpsons Halloween episodes where they were like, "Run! He's got a board with a nail in it."
Godless Gamers. ACA Happy Hour is at Antonio's near Highway 35 and 183 every Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. That's again here in Austin, Texas. So this is just the local news for organization news for us Austinites. That's Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m., and that happens every week. For more information, you can call, or to get the same information, but in a somewhat less haphazard form than you're getting it this morning, you can call our voicemail at area code 512-371-2911, or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org.
But our listeners love haphazard, don't you? Don't you?
We'll give them the audio to cycle through the internet.
I know.
And get to their screens, and then to type in a response in the chat room. In about 2 minutes, you'll get a response.
Yeah, there you go.
We don't have any psychics in the chat room at this time.
No?
All right.
Okay.
I'm holding up, just to test them, I'm holding up some fingers, right? We know how many it is. If they can type how many fingers that is now before they've gotten the audio, before they know I've even asked the question.
Oh, guess not.
Nope. Now I'll tell you it was 5.
Oh, well.
But this chat room we're talking about is one of the coolest features of the Atheist Network. If you listen to our show live on Saturdays from 2 to 3:30 Central Time, you can go to www.atheistnetwork.com, click on the chat link, and you'll find yourself in a chat room full of other people listening to our show live and responding to
the wacky things we say.
The wacky things we say. We got a solstice party coming up.
Yay!
Atheist Community of Austin does. Right here at Glasser Studios, once again, it seems to be like the social center of the ACA universe.
Woohoo! That's why we want to buy a building, so that you guys can take that away from us.
Do you?
Yeah.
You were complaining about us taking that away from you.
No,
he was complaining about having to drive.
That's why you guys want to buy a building.
Awesome! All right. Because we hate you so much.
My house sucks, yeah.
And that's going to be the solstice party is going to be next weekend, December 21, here at Glasser Studios, 7 p.m. The actual solstice hits at 8:14 p.m. Eastern time.
Easter time?
Eastern time.
Is that it? Is like right after Christmas time?
I don't know if I'm ever going to get my shit together on this particular episode. Eastern time. At 8:14 p.m. Eastern time on December 21. That's next Saturday. There's all kinds of cool info on solstices at www.infoplease.com/spot/wintersolstice1.html. And if you want solstice cards for the solstice holiday, we kind of recommend www.heresyhouse.com. Now you can collect past episodes of The Non-Prophets and an audio version of our sister show, The Atheist Experience, which airs only on public access television here in Austin, Texas, in a convenient CD format. Each CD contains a full month's worth of audio from both of those shows in QuickTime and MP3, plus extra surprises. The CDs are $5 each. Contact atheist@mac.com for info. Okay. Phew. Been a big news week, hasn't it? A lot of developments.
Only if you're interested in Trent Lott and
Oh, God. Trent Lott.
Can you say open mouth, insert foot?
Yeah, but he said this stuff before, and he still has a career.
Well, money buys you politics.
I dutifully, I'm a member of People for the American Way, and I get email alerts from them. I dutifully signed on their online petition for him to resign. But
he's not going to do it.
I doubt that he's going to do it.
No, he's already said he's not going to do it.
because online petitions usually get so much done.
Yeah. Well, it's a statement.
It's unlikely that anything is going to actually happen.
It counts as a statement because, if you don't say anything at all.
True.
Well, why don't you go first with news today, Vic?
All right. I will go first.
What's your favorite story?
You know what? I wish we of
news stories.
I wish we had the Star Wars thing.
I can
that's okay.
Imperial March.
The Imperial March. That's
what are they up to now?
Because Bush has made his first move as president, in enacting by executive fiat key pieces of his divisive faith-based initiative, including one that lets federal contractors use religious favoritism in their hiring.
Federal contractors?
Well, it says in this article federal contractors, but what he basically says is that religious organizations can get federal money for charitable work. And these religious organizations are not required to participate in the same kind of hiring practices that every other charitable organization has to participate in. In other words, they can be biased. A Baptist organization can discriminate against non-Baptists and still get federal funding for their charitable organization or for their charitable works.
So this will enable people of different religious views to isolate themselves, just so they're only ever hiring and hanging out with other people that share exactly the same religious views. Yeah, and don't you find that to be just a brilliant strategy for a man who presents himself as a uniter?
Yeah, Well, President Bush began pushing the issue on Capitol Hill in his second week of office, but ran into a fierce debate over how religious groups could get the money without running afoul of constitutional separation of church and state. Well, he figured out how to do it. I'll just sign an order.
Fine.
Gosh.
Now, if
only we'd known it was that easy.
Yeah.
So how do those executive orders get challenged and taken to the Supreme Court?
Well, the Americans United for the Separation of Church and State has said, according to Reverend Barry W. Lynn, that they will. They denounced the move, and they said that they will explore every opportunity to challenge this in the courts. Okay. Which is basically where it's headed. It's headed for the courts. Yeah. Bush, given his official blessing to publicly funding religious discrimination, Barry continued, he is rolling back all American civil rights and civil liberties. Under this scheme, Lynn charged, taxpayers will be forced to support churches they don't believe in, and workers will be denied publicly funded jobs because they don't conform to religious mandates.
Yeah.
Even most religious and civil rights groups strongly oppose Bush's plan. Even the president's own denomination, the United Methodist Church, is strongly opposed to the Bush initiative. So his own church is against him on this, and he did it anyway. So much for his being a uniter. It's quite clear that he's bought and paid for by the extreme religious right. Mm-hmm.
But see, on the other hand, even who was it? One of the Pat Robertson came out against this whole faith-based initiative thing.
Yeah, but
when he found out that it meant Muslims
could get money too. Right, because we don't want none of those fundamentalist Muslims to get any of that money. Which segues into...
No, you don't get to do two news stories. You get to do one, and I get to do one.
Damn it. But it was segueing. You mess with it, man.
What? You got one? What is it?
No, go ahead. You already spoiled it now.
Is it law? Is it like...
No, it's not. It's not.
Not cardinal law.
It's not
law.
It's not law.
I got one.
Go ahead.
On law. Not cardinal law, but the other law.
The real law?
Yeah. The law of the land, as you will.
Until Bush starts signing it away.
What is wrong with me today? Appeals court says new Dow has standing in challenge pledge. This is actually slightly old news. It's from December 4, but we haven't talked about it on the show before. Okay, so Michael Newdow, the Pledge of Allegiance guy, right?
Right, whom I met at the rally.
Yeah, we both met him.
Yep.
I got his business card.
Ooh.
It's not autographed or anything. He challenged the constitutionality of having the state require the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance, considering the fact that it contains the line "under God," and he won at the federal appeals court level, and then of course all hell broke loose. Well, one of the ways that the forces of intolerance are attempting to oppose Newdow's success is by claiming that since he doesn't have custody of his daughter, that
he doesn't have
standing.
We mentioned this last week.
Yeah. Did you? Did you talk about the...
He now has permission to do it on his own behalf?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You did that already last week?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Yes.
I should just cross out my story and not say another word about it?
No, recap it.
Since you've already started.
Now, I've lost my...
Sorry.
I've lost my impetus.
Oh, okay. So much for winging it.
All right. Let me just go ahead and go through this. What I find interesting is... See, after they said, well, he doesn't have custody of his daughter, so he doesn't have the right to bring the suit. And then it came out that the girlfriend, because they weren't ever married, the mother of the daughter, had given Newdow permission to involve her in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
But then she was going to withdraw that permission.
Yeah,
we covered this on the show. She was going to withdraw the permission because she said, well, this is putting my daughter in danger. And Newdow goes, well, that's ridiculous because I kept her identity anonymous until you came out and told everybody that she was your little girl.
Right.
So, a 3-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has put down a challenge by the girl's mother and others who said that he could not challenge the pledge because he didn't have custody. So that is settled. So now we're just waiting on a revisitation of the original ruling to see whether it's going to hold up or not. And there's no reason for it not to.
Is the same court going to revisit this, or is it going to go to a higher
same guys first? I think they were. Yeah, right. They
could, under political pressure, change their mind.
Yeah, but political pressure isn't enough to overturn the law, except when you're like a lawmaking body, and these guys aren't.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're a precedent-setting body. That's not the same thing. Even if they do cave in, doesn't change the fact that he has a case. And the only argument in support of leaving under God in the pledge and calling that constitutional is it's stupid to take it out. That is it. That is the extent of any arguments, of any legal arguments I've heard about why that should remain considered constitutional. All right.
Well, I wonder if that kind of legal argument has any precedent. Does it?
Not that I know of. Well, that just completely fell over on its face. So let me try again.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Hi.
All right. Now
this is the TheNonProphets store.
In addition to forgetting to take the young children out of the room,
we didn't turn the phone off.
In addition to we forgot to turn off the telephone in the room.
Just goes to show you that TheNonProphets is wildly popular. We're being called and given news at all hours of the day and night.
Is that Newdow on the phone? And in addition to forgetting to check to see whether we'd already covered some of these news stories last week.
Well, excuse me, but I wasn't. I didn't show up about 20 minutes before the show started.
True. I was late today. I was late. It's my fault. I was late. Let's go to the mailbag, shall we?
There you go. That's it.
Diane wrote, I'm pretty new to Atheist Radio and just wanted to tell you I absolutely love your show. I described it to some folks as, quote, like sitting around with your very well-informed atheist friends shooting the shit, which is high praise, and you are articulate and very funny. My only regret is that I didn't hear your show before the Godless Americans March on Washington because I would have liked to meet you. Maybe next time. Thanks for all the great listening. Thank you, Diane. Yeah, we are great, aren't we?
Yeah, no.
Of course.
I'm getting a cramp in my arm, patting myself on the back.
Diane's going to write back and say, please disregard the previous letter. Oh, wait a minute. She did write back. Hi there. I wrote recently about how much I've been enjoying your shows, starting with the most recent and working my way back. Oh, good. She's working her way backwards, so she hasn't heard this one yet. Having just listened to show 42, the best yet, well, it would be. That's the answer to the question of the universe. 42.
42 is the answer to the question of the universe.
You've never seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No.
Okay.
I have not.
I have loaned you it, and you never
I got first chapter, and I bored me to tears.
Karen, wait. There's an announcement we didn't do tonight.
What?
Today. Karen is having a movie night where she is screening the TV show version of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which she rented from the library. Borrowed. Right. So, I don't know.
When?
If you know my phone number.
If you don't, you're just out of luck.
Yeah, but when? What day?
Shoot. I'll call her and find out.
Okay, that was very important. Having just listened to the show, back to Diane and her letter. Having just listened to show 42, the best yet, I wanted to let you know about a film I saw this summer that actually shows a behind-the-scenes of a fundamentalist Christian hell house of the sort you were all discussing. So, we talked about those hell houses where... this was an around Halloween show.
Where y'all went to that
We didn't go, but we were talking about this thing.
Ashley went. Ashley and Martin went to that. And Martin wrote a little column about what it was all about, and I don't know if he's got that still online or not. But anyway, it was.
Yeah, they're writing up like instructions on how to. They've written up instructions on how to host one of these things, and they're selling that to other fundamentalists. The originators are. Yeah. The Internet Movie Database entry for Hell House is. Oh God, Russell, do you want to type this down?
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah.
us.imdb.com/title?0301235. I'll hand this to Russell in a second so we can type it in. Also, an NPR interview with the director, including a few clips, is available at another URL that it's really, really long. So, but if you look for this on the web, I'm sure you'll be able to find plenty of information. She says, if you can get hold of the film, I highly recommend it, though I suspect atheists will be drawn regardless of the reviews. It was, to me, really appalling and sickening, very hard to watch. For all the director's discussion of how these church people are very nice, because this film is by a guy going and, like, filming what the fundamentalists are up to. It's not a film by the fundamentalists. Though the director says the people were very nice, I saw none of that there. The selective descriptions of post-abortion medical trauma were particularly enraging, given that, statistically speaking, abortion is safer than childbirth, but in general, the displays were not only Christian in nature, but an active ignoring of the observable truth. Anyway, I hope you get a chance to see the film.
Christianity's all about actively ignoring observable truth.
I will actually hunt that up now. I've heard about the film before, and I'm really intrigued.
I can't reach Karen, but most events start around 7. So.
But we don't know what day even. What day? Today?
Tonight.
Well, that's okay. Great. Tonight then, at about 7. Where?
Karen's place.
Which we don't know where that is.
Well, call
and
me.
If you're a listener,
if you're in the group and you know Russell's phone number, call Russell. Rowan from San Diego wrote, my compliments to producer Russell Glasser for pulling off yet another interesting and informative show.
Oh, yeah.
Though the rest of the crew were on vacation. I'm doing a little dance now. Karen and Dr. Glasser, that's K-A-R-Y, and by the way, Rowan, I'm sorry, I have to correct your spelling here. K-A-R-Y-N.
K-E-R-Y-N.
K-E-R-Y-N, not K-A-R-E-N.
Well, if you're going to have an odd name spelled an odd way, you're going to have to deal with people spelling it the wrong way.
And Dr. Glasser, and I'm sorry, that's D-O-A-C-H-T-U-R. Did a fine job. Dr. Glasser asked us, the listening audience, our thoughts on atheism and morality, so I emailed him with my take on the subject. I only hope I was able to make myself clear. I also made a wisecrack about Jeff tiptoeing around his parents when it comes to his strong views on atheism? Jeff, please don't be mad at me. I was only teasing. Love you guys. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Roan. Thanks, Roan.
We were commenting on the fact that my parents were in town, and I invited them on the show. Well, your parents were in town, and they kept you off the show. It was kind of funny, because for someone who has so much courage of his convictions, generally...
it makes a difference, and this is why I try to be fair with other atheists who I encounter who may keep their feelings to themselves.
There are probably a
in
lot.
certain situations. It really is more problematic when you have family members that you have to deal with.
I guess that's something I thankfully wouldn't know that much about.
I'm getting really close to being not able to care at all.
Are you going to tell us more about this visit, though?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
It actually was not too bad. In fact, this is a great time for that. It was not too bad. It was just my mom, and she's the one of my two parents, the one I can actually talk to. The URL is on the previous page, Russell, near the bottom. She's the one I can actually talk to. I invited her to come down to the bagel shop for our weekly ACA meeting, and she thought about it and then said, well, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I'd feel like an outsider, and a target of arguments. And I said, that's fine. I completely understand. That is exactly how I feel when you invite me to church.
A little taste of the old medicine there.
And she had no response to that, but thought about it. So, that was interesting. And Amanda and I just basically spent the week showing her what a happy life we've got and how we're involved in social issues and, how we have a lot of friends and we have a lot of fun and we're very successful and that we've achieved all this without a shred of religion. So I don't know. I think that the last of the instances where she, expresses concern that I won't be happy if I'm not a Christian are probably behind us now. So, at least to that degree. And, we didn't make the whole thing about religion either. I mean, most of the time we were just, going out to eat and watching movies and stuff like that. It was okay. It was okay. I guess it's Russell's turn to do a news story. How about that?
I don't have any. I gave them all to Vic.
I'm sorry, Vic. For Vic to do one of Russell's news story.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
I can grab one.
No.
I've already marked all over them. Damn. I tell you what, I'll do this one. Guess who's losing favor with the public?
Atheists?
No, not really.
No, not us?
No.
Who is it?
No. Fundamentalists. Fundamentalists losing favor with the public, below lawyers and just above prostitutes.
People like lawyers better than fundamentalists?
Oh, this is the kicker. The American Family Association, a far-right lobbying group in Washington, released the results from a recent survey that showed that the mainstream Americans see evangelical Christians as one of the least likable groups in the country. Researchers from the Barna survey asked respondents how they felt about evangelicals, born-again Christians, ministers, and other groups of people in society. Yeah. According to the survey, evangelicals came in 10th out of 11th, narrowly beating out prostitutes.
Well, I got to admit, I myself would have more fun hanging out with a prostitute than with, say, Jerry Falwell.
Yeah, you probably would. Fellow evangelical George Barna, president of the Barna Research Group, said...
Not that I doubt that Falwell would be willing to perform sexual favors for money.
Yeah, but I don't want to...
I would want to be very far away with it.
Exactly. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to see it. Anyway, fellow evangelical, George Barna, president of the Barna Research Group, said religious conservatives have a lot of work to do in combating the general public's negative views.
Notice the initial spin put on this. They have a lot of work to do changing, what was it?
In combating the general public's negative views.
Right. They got to combat the general public's negative views. Not clean up their act. No. Right? Not change their own views to something that the general public doesn't find, vomit-inducing. Not that. No. We got to challenge the views other people hold. Combat those other views.
Speaking to members of the AFA, he said, "We may not be evil people. We may not be bad people. We may be completely loving and wonderful, but somehow we are being perceived by non-Christians in America as a group of people who are not particularly loving and not particularly generous, kind, or understanding." It's not a perception,
guy.
By
non-Christians,
yeah. It's not a perception, dude. This is the truth.
And it's not just non-Christians.
No, it's not.
That's the entire public. He's just labeled everybody who doesn't like them a non-Christian.
Exactly. This is not a perception. You are not loving, and you're not particularly generous. You're not particularly kind, or you're not understanding.
Sure, you may be all those things. There may be a God, but where's the evidence?
You may be understanding within your own peer group, other fundamentalist Christians, but you are not understanding of anybody else, and you refuse to even try.
Well, you just labeled everybody who isn't one of them non-Christian.
Yeah, that's a classic response from Christian groups. Those people who are not the right kind of Christians, or not real Christians, or not the people who are posing as Christians but aren't real Christians because they don't understand the real meaning of being involved with with Christianity. Particularly galling to the AFA constituency was the country's more open embrace of gay men and lesbians. Gay men, a group conservatives frequently slander and oppose politically, ranked significantly higher in the survey than evangelicals.
In fact, can you read the last 5 on that list?
The last 5 on the list? Yes. Starting from the bottom of the list. Okay.
And going up.
Prostitutes
are the least favored group in the
They only got 5% favorable rating.
Well, out of these 11.
Out of these 11. 5% favored prostitutes least. 22% favored evangelicals least. Above that would have... Well, okay, starting from the bottom of the list and going up. The least favorable to the top.
22% found them favorable. Thought of them as favorable.
Right. If you the unfavorable ratings go as this. 55% thought prostitutes were unfavorable. 23% thought that evangelicals were unfavorable. And it's different. It's in a different order if you go with the unfavorable. I'm going with the favorable, starting over.
All right.
From the bottom of the list, prostitutes, evangelicals, lesbians, Republicans, and lawyers. Movie and TV performers.
Lawyers really kick the fundamentalists' ass.
Kick their asses, man. They're big time. Real estate agents are more favorable than evangelicals. And it gets better. Well, Democrats actually rank higher than Republicans.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they've got everything going on for them right now.
People in the chat are saying, let's see. I'd rather let my kids hang out with prostitutes than fundies.
They'd be safer.
End up healthier. And then Glory BNN says, at least they're upfront and honest, and you know what you're getting for $10. Jeez, Glory, what kind of prostitutes are you hiring?
but what kicks these people in the ass is this is a survey that they did. These are fundamentalists doing this survey, the Barna Institute.
Yeah.
And the Barna Research Group, excuse me. It's their research that's showing that we don't like you. All other Americans think you guys are kind of slimy.
I've turned to data from the Barna Research Group in the past myself, and I've always wondered why it is they are so upfront about sharing all this negative information. And I have a paranoid suspicion, which I'd like to share with you at this time. My paranoid suspicion is that that fundamentalist ministers are in the business of scaring their flocks in order to get their flocks to cough up money. And so I expect the result of this study to be a series of sermons around this great nation of ours trying to scare fundamentalists in the pews to cough up more money to pay for public relations campaigns to to combat the public's perception of fundamentalists, right? I mean, in every case, that is the kind of thing they do with that information. I think there is a reason to maybe discount some of their statistics on the basis that if everything looked rosy, they wouldn't have anything to ask for money to pay for. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's amusing. It's funny. It's a funny read, but I'm actually suspicious they may trump up some of this stuff just to
hardcore
get
Christians
more
are
cash.
kind of schizophrenic. I mean, half the time they're telling you how huge their numbers are and how great they're doing, and
half the time they're telling you how impressed they are.
Right, and it depends on what they want from you.
Right.
Yeah, it's like all Christianity is about trying to be part of the biggest, most closely knit fringe group around, right? To be persecuted and yet part of a huge movement of other people who think the same.
Well, affirming results from continuing the story, results that from other studies, the Barna survey also found that more highly educated non-evangelicals are the least likely less likely they are to have a positive view of fundamentalist Christians.
Right. Smart people know they're completely full of shit.
Yeah. And just about everybody knows that fundamentalists are full of shit. But yeah, man, military officers rank top.
Atheists are not on there?
Atheists aren't even on the list.
I think they were afraid to ask.
I bet you, I'll be willing to bet that an atheist probably but somewhere between lesbians and evangelicals.
Yeah, well, remember the other study where we ranked lower than Muslims on as potential political candidates.
We might still rank higher than prostitutes.
I think there's probably been a big change since that came out.
Yeah.
Since 9/11. Okay, back to me. I need my paper back there, Russell.
Sorry.
Thank you. Time for me to do another thing that's something like news. This I found amusing. Mormon may face expulsion. Grad student challenges church doctrine on American Indians. This also story goes back to last month. Salt Lake City. A graduate student with Mormon family roots says he will probably be excommunicated for articles he has written questioning the validity of the Book of Mormon. Thomas W. Murphy, 35, published an article in the May Signature Books anthology, American Apocrypha, that uses genetic data to discredit the Book of Mormon's claim that American Indians are descendants of ancient Israelites. The conclusion... Huh? You don't know anything about Mormons? You've heard that, right?
Yeah,
they think the American Indians are the lost tribes of Israel.
Whatever.
They do.
No, I believe they do.
Okay.
Yeah, but whatever.
Okay. The conclusion is also the thesis of his doctoral dissertation at the University of Washington. Quote, "We're told to tell the truth, but not if the truth contradicts church doctrine. I would prefer to tell the truth," Murphy said. Murphy, chairman of the anthropology department at Edmonds Community College in Linwood, Washington, will face a church disciplinary council December 8, so that's past now. I haven't seen a follow-up. He will be allowed to make a statement, and council members will try to change his mind about the Book of Mormon. Church spokesman Dale Bills declined to comment on Murphy's case. Lavinia Fielding Anderson, an historian who was excommunicated by the Mormons in 1993, said Murphy is one of at least 3 scholars threatened with expulsion or excommunicated in the past 3 months, raising concerns about renewed efforts to purge dissident church members.
Yeah, that's right. You can't get people to believe your wackiness. Well, we'll just get rid of the ones that cause the most trouble.
Right. Because, that's the thing about this whole claim that religion brings people together. Well, it brings people together in little isolated pockets where they congregate only with people who believe exactly the same thing as they do, and if you disagree, you are kicked out to find another little pocket of people to hang out with.
That bury your head in the sand thing.
And, atheists are guilty of this as well, right? We are now congregating together to hang out with people who think the way we do. And if somebody started coming to our atheist group saying, I'm starting to find this whole Jesus thing a little bit, hard to discount, we would probably make it very uncomfortable for that person to be in there.
Yeah, probably would. It would be in a form of, what is it about this you can't discount? And there would be this discussion, and we've had these discussions before about the validity of Jesus, the historicity of Jesus.
With this
well, I kind of think that our discussions are slightly different. We're not trying to indoctrinate people into atheism.
Yeah.
Although I personally think that might be a good idea, but it's not going to happen.
Unfortunately, I find myself, and I don't like this, but I find myself constantly driven to fall back to the argument of, we do promote our own beliefs and look askance at people who think differently, but that's because we're right. Now, but the difference is, the justification for claiming that we're right is different, and that's what I'm always grasping at to try to make me feel less like a creep, right, when I say stuff like that. The justification in the case of atheism is reason and logic.
Right.
Whereas the justification in the case of, the Mormon Church is, an extremely hard to believe book. It's supposed to have been written by angels and then disappeared and all this crap, and, found by this guy who is known to have been caught for pulling scams in the past. So, that for the Mormon Church, faith in the Bible for mainstream Christians, those things are not good justifications for a claim that you're actually right.
Right.
And reason and logic are. We could still be wrong, but the day they come over and hit us with reason and logic that shows that we're not right, why then I'll start taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn again.
Well, there was an article in the Austin American Statesman on December 4th in the commentary section by Cal Thomas. And the title, Cal Thomas is a syndicated columnist and a right-wing fundamentalist creep who has in the past sided with the moral majority and Jerry Falwell. but according to this thing that Russell gave me, has recently started to change his mind. However, in the article that I'm commenting on, entitled "Moderate Muslims Must Cleanse Islam of Its Radicals," he quotes a fella named Paul Weyrich, a longtime conservative political force in Washington and co-author of an essay called "Why Islam is a Threat to America and the West." And in it, he quotes extensively from the Quran and rebuts the president's contention that this great religion, meaning Islam, is mostly peaceful. Those who argue that the threat comes only from Islamic fundamentalists or Islamic extremism misportray the nature of Islam itself. War against the unbeliever is as central a doctrine as in the practice of Islam as the virgin birth, the Trinity, and Christ's resurrection are to Christianity. Weyrich also notes that more Christians today are being martyred than in the height of the Roman persecutions. I don't know where the hell he pulled that from. And most of them dying in the hands of Islam.
Where is that going on?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he calls for President Bush to call for moderate Muslims to clean up their own house. And my question is, would you be willing to do the same thing, to ask the same thing of moderate Christians?
Yeah. Well, I am, and I've been calling for that for a long time.
And
moderate Christians ought to turn like pod people on the fundamentalists and like drive them into non-existence.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
they should criticize them until they can't find a following anywhere in the United States or the world.
And have you seen any of this happening?
No, it doesn't happen
Christians,
because people who live in glass houses cannot afford to throw stones.
Right.
If Christians started turning on other Christians, saying your interpretation is wrong, opens up the big can of worms. How does anybody know anybody's interpretation is wrong?
They do that anyway within their framework of their own churches. And the Tower of Babel, this book by Robert Pennock, right?
Yeah.
He talks about this. And in the Tower, as he refers to it, these kinds of battles take place all the time. But out in public, they don't disclose this because this other church down the street, they don't have the correct interpretation of the Bible like we do.
I haven't even heard of that kind of stuff going on in private, though.
Yeah, well,
what I hear about in private, right, from my parents who are ministers, and my mom is very left wing. My dad is conservative, but not ultra conservative. What I hear from them is, we've got some very nice people in our congregation. Oh, they're so fundamentalist, but we find ways to incorporate them, right? Well, they're not going to those people, taking them aside and saying, what you fundamentalists in our congregation think is completely frickin' stupid, and you're going to either give it up or get out, right? Instead, they're incorporating that. They're making noises of,
they need their money.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Churches need money.
Sometimes in my more cynical moments, I think that the only reason we have liberal ministers is that they're trying to appeal to as broad a base as possible.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it sells better.
Yeah. Where was I at? Hello.
We're on your article there, and we all jumped in with our little comments.
Sorry. Well, I have a thing that the only difference between a fundamentalist Muslim and a fundamentalist Christian is they have a different book. These are the same kinds of people with the same kinds of attitudes who use their religion as a weapon in the same kinds of ways.
Right. There's plenty of stuff in the Bible that shows that it's a danger to civilization as well.
Right. But you don't hear Christians criticizing. And my question to Cal Thomas would be, would you be willing to apply that same thing that you're saying about responsible Muslim leaders policing their own houses? Let's get the responsible Christian leaders to police their own houses as well. Let's get mainstream Christians who aren't the fundamentalist wackos who are intolerant of just about everybody to tell Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to hear this.
To go to, say, CNN or the Fox channel and say, it looks bad for Christianity for mainstream Christianity, when you keep having Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson on to ask them their views.
Right.
Those guys are flakes. They are a fringe, and they make us look bad, and we'd really appreciate it if you would stop giving them a forum. Right?
And they should, but
they could do that. They don't do that.
But Cal Thomas was interviewed by John Whitehead, appears. And the article, I'm going to just use pieces of it, where he said the question was, you worked for the moral majority from 1980 to 85, and at that point in time you were closely aligned with Jerry Falwell, and that is what generally referred to as advocating that Christians aggressively affect culture by their religious viewpoint and dominate it, if possible. With your book, Blinded by Might, and other articles stated by you, it seems you have turned 180 degrees in your thinking. What happened? And, of course, he didn't answer that question. He just says, buy the book. But it seems a little evasive. But what prompted the thinking in this book? And, I simply went back. This is Cal Thomas. I simply went back and took a close look at Scripture. And as a result, I took out those out-of-context quotes and misquotations that you hear a lot of people and began to read them in context. For example, the most misused scripture for political agendas by conservatives is the one about salt and light in Matthew 5:13. This verse, in particular, is one that is ripped out of context with the implications that Christians can change an unbelieving generation, culture, and government system that cares nothing about the true things of God. If you read the context of... If you read in context the salt and light verse along with the rest of the New Testament, there is no expectation and no commission for believers to change the hearts and minds of unbelievers through the power of a fallen state in a fallen world made up of fallen people. There is, however, a commission to go out and make disciples in Jesus Christ, not the Republican Party. There's nothing wrong. They asked if he thought Christians should stay out of government, and he said, no, there's nothing wrong with Christians being involved in politics, running for office or serving if they can get elected.
Well, yeah, there is. There's nothing wrong with it that is against the law.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Christians being a part of government as long as when they're in government, when they're doing the public service, that's exactly what they're doing. I think what fundamentalists completely missed the point on is that the government institutions are set up to do the necessary work of running a society or keeping it together. And that's not a religious thing. That's purely a business of the people kind of thing.
Right.
That doesn't involve your religion. And you can work side by side with a Muslim or an atheist or any other person as far as working within the framework of government to do the people's business. And it doesn't. Your religion needs not be there.
Needs not, but you see, again, this gets back to my core concern about all religious belief systems, all faith-based belief systems. Is ultimately what they are big excuses to cling to some set of views on the nature of reality that do not have to have anything to do with actual reality.
Yeah.
Right. And so my little quip there is something wrong with having Christians in government, but it's not something we can make illegal, right? Because we can't make it illegal to think whatever it is you want to think. We don't do that here in this country, and that's good.
Christians as well as atheists and anybody else.
It's a bad thing anytime anybody who has some predetermined, irrational set of beliefs gets in a position of responsibility inside that, machinery of doing the business of running a society. Because they're gonna cause trouble. Yeah. They're gonna do stuff. They're gonna do silly, irrational things. They have to, because their entire thought process is informed by silly, irrational things.
But here's something that could be a little bit positive. He was asked a question Cal Thomas was asked the question, what about the argument that America was founded on Christianity? His response, it wasn't.
Okay.
And he actually just says it in 2 words. But I hear it every day. I know, but that doesn't make it right. The argument that the goal should be to reclaim America for Christ and, in effect, have the Christians take over, Cal Thomas responds, well, it was never the Christians' country to begin with. I personally don't want it to be a Christian nation for the same reason that I don't want the federal government aiding the church. I think that Bush's whole faith-based initiative thing is one of the biggest camel's noses in the tent that I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't aware that God declared bankruptcy under the Chapter 11. There is no mandate or expectation in Scripture that the state should fund the works of the things of God. And I think this is extremely dangerous.
That's fine, but how did he get there? He got there by reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And absolutely, you can read some big ancient book of fables and come up with some conclusions that are not nuts.
Yeah.
Right? You can. On the other hand, you're going to have also come up with a bunch of conclusions that are nuts. Right. Then that's what you get if you decide that you're going to take what it says in the big book of fables as your source of information about the nature of reality.
Yeah, but I think
I'm glad every time that I see some right-wing fundamentalist who's in a position of getting he has a platform to get his word out. I'm glad whenever they say stuff that isn't nuts. Yeah, but that's not enough for me.
Yeah, at least it's a step. The argument that America is a Christian nation founded by Christians is just as much a lie as the argument for young Earth creationism that there should be 180 feet of moon dust.
Yeah.
And since there's not, that proves that the Earth is not really old.
Speaking of which, Louisiana State School Board rejects evolution disclaimer. This is just from Friday. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A state board has scrapped evangelicals' request to flag biology textbooks with a disclaimer that the theory of evolution is not a proven fact. A committee... Huh?
Again?
Yeah, they're still at it. A committee of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education had approved the disclaimer proposal earlier in the week, but the full board on Thursday rejected the committee's action by a 7-3 vote. I don't see it as a big deal, said Board of Elementary and Secondary Education member Jim Stafford of Monroe, a dissenter on the board vote. It just tells students to keep an open mind in regard to theories.
Yeah,
no, it doesn't.
There's a problem with keeping an open mind where it's so open that your brain falls out.
Yeah, if you're keeping an open mind with regard to theories and you think that the word theory means the same thing all the time, just means a guess, then you're keeping an open mind about stuff that isn't a guess.
Right.
Right. You shouldn't, it does not make a lot of sense to keep an open mind about gravity. Still called the theory of gravity.
Still a theory of gravity.
It makes sense to understand it completely. Doesn't make any sense to keep an open mind on it. Like at any moment, it could just stop.
Well, there's two things. That one is people are woefully ignorant of the use of the term theory and other terms in science, and of the theory of evolution itself.
Yeah. And
two, they have representatives speaking against evolution theory who do know the difference and are lying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Had the disclaimer been approved, it would have made Louisiana just the second state in the nation with such a provision. The other is, yes, that's right, you guessed it, Alabama, which is the model for the disclaimer backers wanted in Louisiana. Alabama approved its policy 6 or 7 years ago after extensive controversy that included questions over the religious overtones of the issue. The boardroom was packed with backers of the proposal who tried only a couple times to interrupt the proceedings with shouts. Only a couple of times they were wildly disruptive.
Yeah, thanks for supporting the political process, guys.
Great.
I got when this nonsense was going on in Kansas a year or two ago, I got a email forwarded from somebody which supposedly originated with a Kansas State professor who wrote something about the theory of evaporation being challenged by a theory of a lovable blue giraffe named Clarence who goes around the world drinking all the water.
Let me see. Paul Pastorek, president of the BESE, noted that the process of selecting textbooks takes about a year and that the public had plenty of input at previous hearings. Pastorek, who opposed the disclaimer during the committee hearing, lobbied the full board in his successful effort to reject the proposal. Quote, I am not prepared to go back to the Dark Ages, he said.
Thank you.
Well done.
The whole disclaimer thing is a poison in the well argument anyway.
Yeah.
You're trying to set this idea that in the entire text of those disclaimers, it's always this trying to portray the word theory as a guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what they're talking about. It's a complete misrepresentation. And I believe wholeheartedly that the people who are trying to push this are doing it deliberately, knowing that they're wrong.
Think so?
Yes, I think it's a malicious. Knowing that this is that what they're doing, knowing that they're trying to portray theory in the wrong light.
It's interesting. I have a brother who is opposed to the theory of evolution, and he doesn't argue that it's wrong. He argues that it's not testable, which is a false argument.
Right.
But then he also argues that it doesn't matter, that there's no application for that knowledge. It's like he's trying to say, well, it's a disruptive thing to understand because it undermines our assumptions about our place in the world and about the authority of our religious institutions and about where morality comes from and stuff. It's disruptive in that way, and it's not like we can get any benefit out of it, so we ought to throw it out anyway just to preserve all those other assumptions. That seems to be where he's coming from. And it may be that he's simply, representative of a lot of the opponents to evolution, but being more honest with me about where he's coming from than they are. So they'll try to attack it that it's not true, but it's just like the kind when you meet Christians who say, well, even if it's not true, even if there isn't a God, it keeps people happy and makes them be better people, so we should have it anyway. Right?
Does it?
It's like Pascal's wager. Well, you can't know if you exist or not, but if you do this little cost-benefit analysis, you come out better if you believe in him, so you should believe in him. Right. No, none of those things are good reasons to accept a claim.
And on that one claim, you could challenge that. You have to prove that it does make people better and happier.
Yes, right. And
I think that's completely false.
And on my brother's claim that there's no application for it, well, he's wrong too.
Yeah,
there are genetic algorithms in computer science where it uses those principles to evolve programs for certain functions. There's genetic engineering. There's the breeding of animals, right? That human beings have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. All of this shows that, that's the way that genes work, and if your population changes over time, then different characteristics will become dominant. I mean, it's a ridiculous claim that we don't need it, that there's no application for it. Of course there is.
I actually have my own theory about the people going around trying to put disclaimers in textbooks.
Yeah.
If you look back through the history of creation, and of creationism, and I think I've said this before, first they tried to ban evolution from being taught.
Right.
That didn't work.
Right.
Then they tried to force creation to be taught. That didn't work because it was a religion.
Yeah.
Then they tried to make creationism a science. That didn't work because it's not.
Right.
So they've pretty much exhausted most of their, and then of course there's the intelligent design thing, and that's not really working either.
That's not a theory, right?
So they pretty much exhausted their all their options of trying to take over everything in one shot. So now they're going after these little hick towns, which are just barely big enough to gain national attention, but small enough that they think they won't get any serious resistance there, and they'll try to stick it in all these little places.
Right.
Yeah.
It's your dogs peeing on their territory theory,
but why would they keep at it over and over? I mean, why, if they, having lost the first battle, why do they back up and try to win a smaller battle and then lose that one and then back up and try to win a smaller battle? And I have a theory there too, and it gets back to what I was saying before, right? A lot of the religion business is about scaring people into donating money for causes.
Right.
And then you skim the vast majority of that money for your pocket, right? For your fancy car and your gold-plated furniture, and you see how some of these people are living, right? You skim a lot of that money, and then a part of it goes off to fight those causes, which even if you lose, you win, because
you just use it as scare tactics.
That you can use your losses, a scare tactic, to get your people to give you even more.
Yeah, you can say things like, more Christians are being persecuted today than in times of the Romans.
Well, there are more people today than there were in the times of the Romans.
Yeah.
Maybe 1,000 times more people, so if there's only 100 times more Christians being persecuted, well, we've actually come out ahead. Ugh. You got a story?
Well, I have the story that the Scouts can recruit in schools.
Where? Not in the United States.
Yeah.
No.
Public schools can allow the Boy Scouts to recruit students during the school hours without violating Oregon's constitutional requirement for separation of church and state, the state appeals court said Tuesday. Although the Boy Scouts require members to believe in God and aim to promote boys' spiritual growth, the organization is mainly social and recreational, not religious.
Doesn't matter if it's mainly. Doesn't matter if it's mainly. If it's entirely social, why then they wouldn't be making any demands on the children's religious beliefs, and then there wouldn't be a problem.
The 41-page ruling does not settle whether Nancy Powell, a mother who is an atheist, will win or lose her fight to stop Boy Scouts recruiting in Portland's schools. The legal battle has raged for more than 5 years and will take at least another year to resolve. A second Powell family lawsuit challenging the school's recruitment on different grounds, a state law forbidding discrimination in schools, is pending before the Court of Appeals. A lower court judge ruled that Portland schools illegally discriminated against atheists by allowing scout recruitment.
Yeah.
Powell's lawyer also said that she will appeal Tuesday's decision in the church-state case to the Oregon Supreme Court.
Huh. Well, now, I don't know what the Oregon state constitution says, and that's all that they've said that it doesn't violate. I mean, their separation of church and state clause might be, limited to, the government cannot directly conduct church services in government buildings. It might be written that way, and then it wouldn't be a violation of their state constitution. So that may have to go higher.
Depends on how they word it.
And speaking of religious discrimination in government, dispute over leading prayer. Virginia County biased against Wiccan, ACLU suit says. In Chesterfield County, elected leaders bow their heads for a brief prayer to start every meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Local ministers, priests, and the occasional rabbi, each of whom has volunteered to be on a list, offer words of inspiration before the meeting shifts to zoning laws, budget cuts, and public hearings. It's been that way for years. But when Cynthia Simpson, a witch and local Wiccan priestess, volunteered, she received a firm no. In a letter from the county's attorney, she was told that only members of the Judeo-Christian religions can pray on the board's behalf.
Ooh, can you say discrimination?
Today, two civil liberties groups filed today being December 7, this is a week old, two civil liberties groups filed a federal lawsuit alleging that the county's response to Simpson amounts to religious discrimination. The suit demands that the county either stop offering prayers before meetings or allow Simpson to participate. Quote, "They are allowing people of some religious faiths to participate and others not," said Kent Willis, executive director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Virginia, one of the groups that sued. "It is virtually impossible for the government to get involved in religion without discriminating." Barry Lynn, director of the D.C.-based Americans United for Separation of Church and State, which joined the lawsuit, accused Chesterfield supervisors of acting like theological kingpins. Quote, "This strikes at the core of the principle that we make no distinction about religion," Lynn said. Simpson, a domestic violence consultant for the State Department of Health, says Wicca, interchangeable, she says, with witchcraft, is a peaceful religion in which reverence and respect for the cycles of nature are key. She said she also wanted to offer...
I love that note of sarcasm in your voice when you read that.
But I just need to step in here and say I think Wicca is every bit as stupid as every other supernatural-based religion in the universe. But on the other hand, she's absolutely right in this case. She said she wanted to offer the prayer to dispel images of wicked witches on broomsticks. Quote, "I am being denied an opportunity here solely on the basis of my religion. There's no other reason for it. In this case, a judgment is being made about what is a true religion and what is not. Government shouldn't be making that judgment," Simpson said. In his letter to Simpson, County Attorney Stephen L. Mikas wrote that, quote, "Chesterfield's non-sectarian invocations are traditionally made to a divinity that is consistent with the Judeo-Christian tradition. Based upon our review of Wicca, it is neo-pagan and invokes polytheistic pre-Christian deities," unquote. Kelly Miller, chairman of the Chesterfield Board of Supervisors, vowed to fight the lawsuit. He said the county should continue to allow prayers only from Jews and Christians. Quote, That is basically a non-religion. It doesn't recognize the God that we have recognized. My perspective is that we should continue to follow the Judeo-Christian perspective. In the name of diversity, we need not throw away our Christian heritage. You're right, dude. You do not have to throw away your Christian heritage in the name of diversity.
Right.
Because you know what? Letting a Wiccan speak, letting a Wiccan have her turn, does not throw away your Christian heritage. You can still be a Christian. Nobody ever said you couldn't.
That's astounding.
Yeah. That's just completely goofy. If we hear a prayer from one of them Wiccans, it might do something to our brains, and we'll convert, and we won't be Christians anymore. Oh, no!
Part of the Christian...
Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
Part of the Christianity meme...
Burn the witch!
Part of the Christianity meme, do not listen to that other meme over there. I'm not listening, la 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 la.
Miller said the policy is the right course, even though it would likely bar Muslims and Hindus from offering the prayers as well. But Barry Lynn called it a violation of the First Amendment, which prohibits the establishment of a national religion. He predicted that a federal judge would quickly force Chesterfield to stop its current practice. Lynn also urged Miller and the other board members to give up the fight. Quote, "It would be foolish for this Board of Supervisors to waste taxpayer funds to pursue a hopeless case."
But they will.
Sometimes, he added, it looks like something is suspicious because they only pick, for example, Presbyterian ministers, and you say, I wonder if they're biased. Here they frankly admit that it's done to promote one religious sentiment over others. This is about as blatant as you can get.
And they're going to lose.
What's the headline on that one?
The headline was, Dispute over Leading Prayer.
Okay.
There we go. Vic, are you, have you run dry on news stories?
Yeah, I did. I sort of ran through them.
No, I get a little bit more here.
Okay, well, we can go right ahead.
Do we got time? Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, we got a little bit.
We can hear more about your parents.
There's not anything much else to say.
All right.
You ask me questions if you want. Ex-pharmacist gets 30 years for diluting cancer drugs. This is a story from December 5 and Kansas City, Missouri. A federal judge sentenced former pharmacist Robert R. Courtney to the maximum 30 years in prison Thursday, ending a year-and-a-half-long saga of his scheme to dilute cancer drugs for profit. I think it's got into the major news.
And the next day, Pinky will take over the world.
So anyway, I mean, the story is, of course, hideously tragic. People have died as a result of this guy interfering with them getting sufficient treatment for their cancer, right? In a written statement to prosecutors on August 2001, this is the bit you probably didn't hear on CNN when this story broke. Courtney cited pressure to pay a $600,000 tax bill and the final one-third of a $1 million pledge to his church as a reason for diluting the drugs. He needed to earn the money in order to pay his tax, okay, but that never justified a crime, but also to pay his pledge of $1 million to his church.
So,
that's right. I'm killing people for God.
Yep.
Is what he's doing.
That's essentially it.
Doesn't matter if those cancer patients of mine die. I need this money because I promised God I'd fork it over.
Astounding.
Well, you know, and God is much more concerned about getting his promised money than he is about whether or not he's going to get the proper medication.
What are you looking for,
boy.
Russell? Chesterfield County, Virginia.
Jeez.
What are people having trouble understanding us? Why are you getting all this info and typing it into the chat room?
People are asking. They're interested. They don't hear it the first time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You know, you can rerun the show by just going to our website and clicking to download the audio. Here's a little amusing thing. In England, a vicar told the children in his at his Christmas service that Santa Claus is dead.
Yeah, he got shot down by a Sidewinder missile.
Remind me the part where he was ever alive.
Yeah.
Even parents at the Christmas Carol service in Maidenhead, Berkshire, were shocked to hear Reverend Rayfield say it was scientifically impossible for Father Christmas to deliver so many presents so quickly. Apparently, from reading the story, there's this amusing little, physics analysis of the weight of the presents and the distance that...
Well, yes, I've seen those. In fact, there are some in Dan Barker's books.
And so he was talking about this. He's talking about it being physically impossible for Santa Claus to travel fast enough to deliver all those presents without burning up from friction with the atmosphere. But isn't this entirely ironic, right? That a vicar, a church representative, a minister would be telling people that to destroy this one mythical character, while at the same time we got Jesus getting up from the dead and floating into the sky? That we got talking donkeys and snakes? Well, we got the universe created in 6 days?
Yeah, well, Jesus didn't float up fast enough to create friction.
Doesn't matter. That's a clear violation of gravity.
Right. But all that doesn't apply when it comes to Jesus.
But gravity is only a theory.
Mr. Rayfield has admitted making a serious misjudgment in telling the story to children as young as 5. Children are not children for very long, and it is not my job to tell them things like this. So wait a minute. So the flip side is, it's okay. It's not only okay to lie to kids, it's your duty to lie to kids.
We've actually had this conversation before on the show about whether atheists should tell their kids that there's a Santa Claus.
Sue Smee was at the service with her 5-year-old and 9-year-old sons. She said, that was her quote, "Children are not children very long, and it's not his job to tell them things like this. It has left us parents with a lot of explaining to do today." Well, damn straight. What we need is not a minister going up there telling people that Santa Claus doesn't exist. We need a minister going up there saying God and Jesus don't exist, and then send the parents home with explaining to do.
Well, they'll stop putting money in the plate then.
So, anyway, I thought that was kind of comical. So, the big news this week is Cardinal Law is out of there.
Yeah.
He is out of there.
And none too soon.
And, it's not the first time he offered his resignation.
Right.
They didn't accept it last time. Well, you know why they accepted it this time? I can tell you.
Go ahead.
More information came out from the files, right? The church file, more church files were opened because of legal demands. And here's the information that came out that led to the ouster of Cardinal Law. Priests sexually abused teenage girls, used cocaine and other drugs, and one had an affair with a female parishioner, according to allegations contained in personnel files maintained by the Boston Archdiocese. The 3,000 pages of files on 8 priests were released by lawyers representing people who claim they were sexually abused by the clergy. The attorneys are seeking to show that Cardinal Bernard Law routinely transferred priests to other parishes even after accusations of child abuse or other wrongdoing. The lawyers said they would begin releasing the personal records of 65 priests, which they have access to via a court order. The priests are not targeted in the abuse suit from which the court order stems. So they only got this information to show a pattern. Mm-hmm. These are not the specific priests' cases they are dealing with. Mm. The files included those for Reverend Robert Meffin, who allegedly recruited girls in the late 1960s to become nuns and then sexually abused them while assigned in Weymouth, Massachusetts, according to 1993 letters from Sister Catherine Mulcairn to her boss, the Reverend John McCormick, who was a top aide to Cardinal Law and is currently the Bishop of Manchester, New Hampshire. Meffin allegedly would tell the girls to perform sexual acts as a way of progressing with their religious studies.
Yeah.
He also allegedly participated in sexual acts with 4 girls at the same time. If we're not talking about underage girls, that is, I think, a fine achievement and something that every man should pursue, at least once in their life.
Oh, but if they are underage,
If they're underage, though, then you need to go to prison. They were all young girls planning to be nuns, said attorney Robert McLeish Jr., who represents 247 plaintiffs among dozens of lawsuits against the archdiocese. The Reverend Thomas Forey, who served in Scituate and Kingston, allegedly built a house on Cape Cod for a woman with whom he carried on an 11-year affair, the files show. The woman had gone to him seeking advice because of problems in her marriage. The woman's son later alleged that Forey made sexual advances on him.
So he was just going both sides
for the whole family.
Yeah, doing both sides of the fence there.
A 1992 memo from Mulcairn to McCormick outlined the history of allegations against Forey. 7 years later, law reassigned Forey from being a prison chaplain to at a state prison in Concord to being a roaming fill-in priest on various...
that's a good way to hide him.
To cover various vacations by priests in the archdiocese. He is currently unassigned. Plaintiffs' attorneys and victims' advocates say the personnel files show that law continued to transfer problem priests until recently. It's not ancient history, it's very, very recent, said David Clohessy, National Director of Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. The Reverend Richard Buntle, who served at St. Joseph's from 1978 to 1983, allegedly used cocaine with boys while serving in Malden. Mulcairn, in one memo to McCormick, said an alleged victim told her that Buntle provided cocaine to the boy when he was 15. Quote, he would snort it in the priest's room... subquote, every time I went, unquote, and in a way it seemed like an exchange for sex, which also happened every time, Mulcairn wrote. As of this year, Buntel was employed in a non-ministerial position as a business manager at St. Thomas of Villanova Parish in Williamson. McCormick's spokesman, Patrick McGee, would not comment Tuesday, saying the bishop had not read the files. McCormick has often said he did not know about allegations against priests because of poor record-keeping. This poor record-keeping apparently extends to him not reading the letters written directly to him by nuns who know what's going on.
3,000 documents covering 8 people.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot.
So Law's resignation may lead to trouble for Bishop McCormick of New Hampshire, because that is 6 minutes before we end. Wasn't it?
Well, if you just say it, then there's no point in me holding up my fingers quietly.
Russell, part of Russell's job here on the Non-Prophets is to hold up fingers telling us how much time we've got left. But I thought you were down to 2 fingers just a minute ago.
No, you didn't see the other hand.
Oh, it is 2 hands. Okay. I just glanced. So the thing is, let me read this bit here, because this was the interesting tidbit. This is James Farrow, a member of the New Hampshire chapter of Voice of the Faithful, said Law's departure, though good for the church, represents a de facto admission to many allegations. He said that could further taint McCormick. Quote, if Cardinal Law has in fact resigned, then John McCormick should be right behind him. Really, the only defense he has for what he did was, I was doing what the Cardinal told me, and that's no defense at all.
No.
But Farrell isn't convinced that the bishop will succumb to pressure, despite his belief that support for McCormick, even among the faithful, has eroded. Quote, if he was at all responsive to public opinion, I think he would have been gone long ago. Monsignor Thomas Green, a professor of canon law at the Catholic University of America in Washington, said no bishop is safe if Law resigns, but he doesn't foresee wholesale departures. Well, we will be watching very closely. Now, it's important to remember, though, that big organizations like that specifically big organizations that have engaged in centuries of exactly this kind of cover-up, don't suddenly change their tune just because they've suddenly overnight seen the light, right?
No.
If they're doing this, they're doing it for political or financial advantage.
And this is just a big bad thing that got exposed that they were covering up. How much other shit are they covering up?
Right.
Stuff that they don't let you know because it hasn't leaked yet.
Right.
And how big is this whole pedophilia, sexual abuse thing? It's probably much, much bigger than we actually see.
Why would they have not? This is what always puzzled me, is why would the Pope have not accepted Cardinal Law's resignation the first time? Well, the reason is they felt that they couldn't afford the idea to circulate that a guy could rise that high in the church and be a complete schmo.
I'm curious, was the Pope speaking ex cathedra when he said that Cardinal Law should not resign?
At that time. Now it's the right time.
but who was this on the radio show was talking about that the Pope is senile. I mean, he's not making any decisions whatsoever. It's the little minions around him who are propping up the Pope because he's still alive, and as long as he's still alive, their power base is intact. Once the Pope dies, that whole thing changes. And so they'll have this Pope after he's dead for 2 or 3 years, still propped up and puffed up, laid on a chair.
Right. I mean, given the evidence that's come out, it's clear that the church didn't refuse Law's resignation the first time because he was innocent. Right? No. They did it because they didn't think they could afford for the public to perceive high-ranking church officials as that vulnerable, that it's that possible for them to be doing this evil shit.
Well,
right? So now they've got to the point where, okay, now everybody knows, so kick him out. But now, why did they kick him out? Well, it's gonna be because now they're going to try to play the blame game. Oh, all that stuff going on here, it's the fault of that man over there who has resigned. It's all his fault. It wasn't the church. It was that man, that excommunicated man, that retired man.
All these guys that we've purged. We've purged all this evil from our church now.
Right. And remember, at the same time this is going on, they're looking at the possibility of declaring bankruptcy. Not because they're nearly out of cash, but because they don't want to have to sell any of the vast property holdings that they're much of which they're not even using. They want to sit on their vast wealth and not have to give any more of it up to pay settlement fees.
Right. Yeah, because settlement fees, that would really break them.
Evil bastards from beginning to end. The entire organization is corrupt. And it's why it's corrupt? Because they make it their business to lie to people for a living.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. That is why religion is evil, and that is why I'll have nothing to do with it. Okay, so, this has been a fine program. We managed to pull it out anyway. I think I finally got
the ability to speak.
About halfway in, I think, I started stopped stumbling over myself and losing
Caught your groove.
Yeah, my groove. And you guys have done well. Vic, can we expect you to come back full time at any point?
Please.
Just checking. We've been trying to fill, a permanent co-host seat. I think our listeners are starting to catch on that we have not been able to find permanent co-hosts. Everybody's suddenly got a career or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something that just doesn't have enough time for this.
I still have my on-call issues, but I could probably make more routine appearances, and it'll seem like I'm a regular.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate that you did it this time. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Want to thank everyone in the chat room for their for hanging out with us and for their input, which Russell, of course, is always monitoring, and we love each and every one of you for supporting us. Okay, are we done? We're gonna leave them with the music now?
Yes. Sure.
Okay, we will leave you with The Angel Wars by Gary Newman, and we will see you next week.